Good afternoon, grade 11 CAP students. Thank you for being here this afternoon. It's good to see you guys again, and thank you again for your dedication to this class. It is awesome to see that you guys are willing to learn and just kind of keeping on track in terms of your curriculum and your work. It's really, really good to see. If you would like to catch up on any of the lessons, please go to Africa Teen Geeks. The YouTube channel is available. And from there, you can either share the video or you can watch the video and yeah, just catch up on any work that you may or may not understand, or if you just want to revise the work, feel free to watch any of those videos over there. Throughout the lesson, I'm going to be going through a couple of examples. I'm going to be looking at specifically Excel. So if you do have any questions throughout the lesson, please just raise your hand or post a message into the chat and I will answer any of the questions that you may have. What we have been looking at is Microsoft Excel. So we have been yesterday looking at the absolute cell referencing method as well as the relative cell referencing method. Michiel, so you had a question there. Okay, Michiel is looking for the HTML lesson on YouTube. Michiel, I'll have a look for that lesson and I will let you know if I find it, and then I'll send you an email. Okay. So yeah, like I said, we looked at absolute cell referencing yesterday and we also looked at relative cell referencing. What we're going to do today is we're going to continue with Microsoft Excel, and we're going to look at 3 different functions today. We are going to look at the round function, we're going to look at the large function, and we're going to look at the small function. Now, these are all functions that you should be familiar with. However, I know that we have covered a lot of ground since then, or since the beginning of the year. So it may be just a chance for you to revise some of the work and just kind of get a refresher about how to do these specific functions. Again, like I said, if there's any specific work that you are really, really struggling with and that you'd like me to cover in any one of these lessons, I'm happy to kind of do that as well and look at kind of the suggestions that you want as well. We have covered all the work for term 2. What most schools would have been doing at the current stage is going into the June, July exams. However, obviously that's not happening. So we do have a little bit of time over here to revise, but then also to kind of work into term 3's curriculum as well. So here we go. We are going to start with the lesson for today. And by the end of this lesson, hopefully you would have got a good and a better understanding of the 3 functions that we are looking at. Like I said, we are focusing on Microsoft Excel, and today we are going to look at the round function, the large function, as well as the small function. I'll be going through a couple of pointers and a bit of theory work behind the round function and the large and the small function. And then I'll be looking at specific examples and just showing you how to complete these functions in different ways. Okay, so first off, looking at the round function, what is the round function? Now, the round function is quite simple to understand. It's essentially rounding off numbers to a specified number of decimal places. So what you're doing is you're going to round off a number to a specific amount of decimal places. Now, you could round off to 1 decimal place, you could round off to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decimal places, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And this often helps when we are working with averages. If you need to calculate a specific average and the average percentage is 73.62153, the round function allows you to round off that specific number. And it's often tested in grade 11 as well as in matric papers as well. So it's an important function to understand. And oftentimes they integrate this function into an average question as well, where they ask you to calculate the average and then they ask you to round that average off to a specific number. So very important function to understand. And like I said, it does come up in grade 11 and most definitely does come up in matric as well. Now, there are actually rounding up functions as well as rounding down functions. However, we're not going to focus on those today. If you would like me to look at that at a later stage, I'm happy to do that as well. So we're going to focus specifically on the round function, and just as added information, you can also round up to a higher number, and you can also round down to a different number as well, to a lower number. The second function that we are going to look at today is the large function. Now, the large function determines the nth largest number of all the values in a specific range. Now, the nth largest number is a specific value that you want to find out. So a lot of kids look at that and they don't understand what the nth value is. The nth value is just a number that you are specifically looking for. So the large function can determine the largest number in a set of, in a range of cells. It can also find the second largest, the third largest, the fourth largest, and the fifth largest. So the nth value, or the nth largest number, is any value that you specify the function to find. So what the function will do is it will look at a specific number of cells, any of the cells that you highlight, and it will look at all of the values that are contained in those cells, and then it will pick out either the first, the second, or the third biggest number that you have specified. The third function that we are having a look at today is what's known as the small function. And just like the large function, the small function determines the nth smallest number of all the values in a specific range. So very similar to the large function, it's just kind of the opposite. Instead of looking for the biggest number, it now looks for the smallest number. So the small function will look at specific numbers within a range of cells, and it will look at every single one of those numbers in those cells, and it will determine which one is the smallest, or which one is the second smallest, or the third smallest, or the fourth smallest, all depending on what value you are looking for. If you are looking for the smallest, it will find the smallest, and you will have to specify that in your function. Now, the functions that we are focusing on over here, the round function, the large function, and the small function, are all functions that deal with numerical values. They deal with numbers. You cannot use the large function, the small function, or the round function with text, with words. So it's very important to understand that we are looking for values that have numerical values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, up to whatever number. We can't use these functions on words. Okay, so let's jump into it now. I'm going to open up a spreadsheet, and what we are going to do is we're going to look at a couple of different examples, and we are going to work through those examples. I'm going to show you a couple of different methods to use when using the round function, as well as the large, as well as the small function. Okay, so just looking at that first over there, the first function that we are looking at today is known as the round function. Now, like I said, the round function rounds a number off to a certain amount of decimal places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one example over here and just explain the example, and then also use possibly a different method or a different way to complete the answer. So what we've got over here is we've got a set of numbers. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers over here, and each one of them has got a decimal place. So we got 23.23 over here, 56.127, 25.1, 79.22222, and then 67.123456. So what I want to do with the first number over there, 23.3, is I want to round this number off to the smallest to the biggest number. The module, Jessica, that we are working from, I think, is 4.2 from Study Opportunities. I'll just have to double check that. It's either 4.2 or 4.3 from Study Opportunities. So I am going to use the round function because I want to round this number off to a specific value. And I want no decimal places in this function over here. So I'm going to say equals. Always remember your equal sign when you're putting in a formula or a function. And I'm going to type in round because I'm going to use the round function. And you'll notice now that you get round, round down, and round up. Round down rounds down to the lowest number, and then round up rounds up to the highest number. So I'm going to select the round function over here, and I'm going to double click on that. And then I'm going to select the number that I want to round off. So it's going to be this value over here, 23.23. And you'll notice that A2 then appears next to round. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a comma in, and I want it to round off to how many decimal places? Let's say 0 decimal places. And then I'm going to close the brackets, which I don't actually have to do, but I'm going to do it anyway, is 23.3. So I'm going to round this value off to 0 decimal places. And the answer should be 23. There we go. I got 23 for rounding that off. So as you can see, the function is stated over here in the formula bar, equals round A2, comma 0. So I've rounded this number off to 0 decimal places. So I've taken away the decimal places over there. A different method which some students like to do, and whichever works for you is fine, is to use the FX button over here. So I'm going to insert a function from here. And what I want to do is I want to use the round function. So I'm going to search over here for round. So search for a function over here. This allows me to search for a function. I type in the function that I'm looking for. I type go. And it should appear now. It's just taking a bit of time to load. Sorry. There we go. And the function appears over here. You can see that I'm looking for the round function. I double click on that. And now it tells me the function arguments over here, which I can then insert. So the number that I want is this number over here, which I can still select in the Excel spreadsheet. I don't actually have to type it out. I can still select it over there. And the number of digits refers to the number of decimal places that I would like to have. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 0 because I don't want any decimal places. And you'll notice that the answer appears just underneath it as well. Okay, this is a way to kind of test or to ensure that you do have the right answer. So what I'm going to do over there is I'm going to click OK, and you'll notice that the answer is still 23. So those are the two methods that you can use for rounding. Now, there's certain functions that are a lot easier to just kind of type out, like sum and average, and some of the smaller functions or the functions that you learn in grade 10, like the sum, the max, the min, the average. All of those functions are quite easy to kind of just type out. However, there are some functions where it's a little bit more complicated and there's a lot of variables that you need to take into consideration. And some of those include the count if, the sum if, concatenate. So some of those functions are quite difficult to kind of just type in. And when those functions become a little bit more complicated, I really encourage the students to click on the insert function button because that avoids you actually typing in any errors. You kind of just select and then kind of creates the function for you. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to look at all of these examples and we're going to look at different decimal places that we can use. So instead of just putting 0 decimal places, we're also going to look at 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, and 3 decimal places. Okay, so I'm not going to use the FX button over here. I'm just going to type in my function. And the first one I want to do is I want to round off to, let's say, 1 decimal place. So I'm going to say equals. I'm going to start typing round. I'll double click on round. I'll select the value that I want to round off. I'll put in comma, and I'm going to round it off to 1 decimal place, and then click enter, and it rounds it off to 1 decimal place. Thanks, Jessica. Module 4.2, eh? Okay, what we are going to do now for the second one is we are going to round it off to 0 decimal places, and you should be familiar with this one. So I'm going to say equals round, double click on round. I'm going to select the value. I'm going to put comma, and then I'm going to say 0 decimal places. I can close the brackets if I want. I don't have to. Click enter, and my value is 56. Okay, so that was the first one rounding to 1 decimal place. Second one rounding off to 0 decimal places. And the third one, let's round off to 0 decimal places as well. Equals round, double click on round, select my value. Now, just before I carry on over here, once I've selected my value over here, I can select comma over here. However, some of your computers, the comma may not work because of the settings on your computer. If it doesn't work, simply select the semicolon over there. The semicolon, depending on the settings of your computer, may work instead of the comma. My computer is set so that functions just include commas. However, your computer may be set so that it includes a semicolon. So if you're completing this at home and your functions aren't working and they're telling you that there's an error like this, I'll show you the error that should appear. We found a problem with this formula. Try clicking insert function on the formula tab to try and fix it. The error that I had over there was because I put in an exclamation mark. Oh, sorry, not an exclamation mark, semicolon. But your computer, like I said, may be set to only include semicolons. I'm just going to change that over there, round it off to 0, and it rounds off to 25 over there. Okay. Okay, let's do the next one over here, 79.222. I'm going to round it off to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to say equals, oh, not equals that one. First type in my function, which is round. I'm going to double click on round. I'm going to select the value that I need. I'm going to set the comma, and I'm going to say round it off to 2 decimal places, and close my bracket over there. Let's round it off to there. I see that I've got extra decrease the decimal places over here. There's a little number over here that allows you to increase the decimal places or decrease the decimal places. I think that's what happened over there. If I increase the decimal places, you can see that it increases over there. Even if you put the function in, you can also decrease the decimal places over there. I think that's what happened with this one over here. There we go. Okay. And then the last one over here, 67.123456. I'm going to round it off to 3 decimal places. So my answer should be 67.123. So I'm going to say equals round, double click on round, select my value, and then comma, and I want to round it off to 3 decimal places, and click enter, and my answer is 67.123. Okay, so that is the section on rounding off numbers. Like I said, there is rounding up, there is rounding down as well. You'll notice that in these examples over here, the round function automatically rounds it down. It doesn't round it up. So 23.23 gets rounded down. 56.127 gets rounded down to the lowest whole number. 25.1 gets rounded down. However, if you use the round up function, it would have been rounded to 26. Just to keep that in mind. Okay, let's go to the small function over here. We have got a number of values over here, and the small function and the large function really helps when you have a large Excel spreadsheet that you're looking at with a lot of data, and you're unable to actually look at it closely and study it and determine what is the smallest number. So the small function helps with that. Small function also helps us determine the fastest time and possibly the student that got the lowest mark, as well as the student that got the highest mark for the large function. So what I want to do in this column over here, you'll notice that I've got a whole, got a large set of numbers over here, and I can't really determine the smallest one. What I want to do is I want to use a specific function to find the smallest value. Now, what a lot of students do, again, in the error that they make, and I've seen this over a number of years, is that they are asked to calculate the smallest number, but instead of using a function, they actually just type out the number. So in the test or the exam, the question may state to them, find the smallest number within the range of cells. And they'll look through the cells over here, and they'll see, okay, 12 is the smallest number, and they'll just type out 12. In an exam situation, you don't get any marks for doing that, even if you've got the right answer. What they're trying to test you and what they're trying to find out is whether or not you're able to use the function. Now, if you use, let's say, equals small, which would be correct, and you double click on small, and you just click on 56 over there, and you enter, and you get the incorrect wrong. You've put in the wrong, you've put in sort of the wrong array over here, you've selected the wrong cells. You will still get a mark for using the correct function. So it's very, very important that you understand how to use the function and where to use the function, and not just kind of type out the answer. So also just keep that in mind when you are doing exams. Always try and put in some kind of function, even if you're not 100% sure which one it is. If you have used the right function, but you've got the incorrect answer, you still get at least 1 mark for using the right function. Okay, so with this one over here, I'm looking for the smallest number. Okay, so the function that I'm going to use is equals small, and I'm going to double click on the small over here. And now I have to select the cells that I want the function to look at. So the numbers that I want the function to look at are all of these numbers over here. So what I will do is I need to select all of those cells, or highlight all of the cells over there. Now, this is the range of cells that the function is going to look at to determine which one is the smallest. However, I can't just do that. What I need to do is I need to select the smallest one, which is going to be 1, comma 1. 1 represents the first smallest number. 2 the number 2 over there, if I typed in 2 over there, would be the second smallest number. If I typed in 3 over here, it would look at the cells and it would determine the third smallest number. So I'm going to type in 1 over there and then click enter, and you see that the answer over here is 12. It looked at all of those cells and it recognized that 12 is my smallest number. And if we go through all of those cells over there and all of those values, you'll notice that 12 is in fact the smallest number. The other method that I could use, or the other way to complete the answer, would again to be clicking on the insert function button and search for small, double click on small, and then select the array of cells, which is this over here. This is all the cells that we want the function to look at. And then the k, which also represents the nth value, kth value, or the nth value. We are looking for the first smallest number. And again, it gives us the answer over here, which is 12. And then say OK. And it gives us 12. Okay. Like I said, the fx function over here, inserting function from this method over here, allows us to just avoid kind of making typos or selecting the wrong cells. So that's useful to know how to use that. Okay, let's look for the second last. We're going to look for the second lowest. Sorry, that should be lowest. Second lowest number. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to say equals small. Double click on small because that is the function that I want to look at. Select all of the cells over here and then type in comma 2, which is going to find the second lowest number, and close it, and gives you the answer of 14. And if I go through there, 12, the second smallest number is 14 over there. Okay, let's just do one more example. Let's find the fifth lowest number. What I will do is there, I'll go equals small, double click on small, highlight the cells that I want to look at, comma, and I want to look for the fifth lowest number, which is 5, and then close my brackets over here. Again, I don't actually have to do that, but I'll just do it anyway, and I'll find the fifth largest, smallest number, which is 23. Okay, so that is how the small function works, and we're going to look at some more practical examples as well after the large function. Okay, so that was the small function. As you can imagine, the large function is very, very similar. What we are going to do now is we are going to look for the largest value. Okay, so the biggest number within a set of sets of a range of cells. So these are the cells that I want the function to look at. So I'm going to highlight all of those cells over there. These are the cells that I wanted to look at. And I'm going to look for the first highest or the largest number, which is going to be the number 1 that I need to insert into my function. So if you can kind of follow with me, I hope that you guys are getting it by now. The function that I'm going to use is the large function. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go step by step. I'm going to put in the equal sign. The next one I need to type in is large because I'm looking for the largest value. I'll double click on large. It then even tells you little at the bottom of there, you need to look for the array of cells. The array of cells is basically just the cells that you want the function to look at. So the cells that I want the function to look at are all of these cells over here. So I've selected all of my cells, and then I'm going to say comma, and I'm looking for the largest. So largest represents number 1, and I'm going to enter, and it's given me the value of 95, which, as I can see over there, is the largest value. Okay, let's look for the second largest. And we'll go with third. Let's go with 6th place. Okay, so second largest and 6th largest over there. Okay, so I'm going to just do it a different method. So depending on what you like to do or how you like to complete the function, you will type on fx over here. This is just a different method to use to cater for everyone. I'm going to type in large because that's the one that I'm looking for, the function that I want to use. I'm going to double click on large. It's going to ask me for the array over here. I'm going to highlight all of my cells over here. And then I'm looking for what value? I'm looking for the second largest value over here. So I'm going to type in 2. And I'm going to click OK. And it gives me the value over here. Okay, and then the last one over here that I am looking for is the 6th largest number. So first thing I do, step by step, equals. I'm looking for the largest value, so I'm going to type in large, double click on large, select the cells that I wanted to look at, and then say comma 6, with the 6th largest number, and then enter, and it gives me 56 as the 6th largest number. So that is essentially how the large, the small, and the round functions work. There's nothing much more to it than just to kind of understand the different methods that you can use. Knowing which function to use is very important. Knowing which cells to select is also very important. And then what values you are specifically looking at. So the first, the second, the third, or the fourth biggest, the smallest number. Okay, what we are going to do now is we're going to look at some examples that maybe you could find in exams or activities that you may be doing. And yeah, hopefully these assist to kind of reinforce the content that we've just covered. Okay, so what we have over here is we have got an Excel spreadsheet that's got the largest computer games competition, the large computer games competition. It's got a number of students that they're working with over here, and the students have got the students are either male or female. also states their grade, and then the score that they achieved while playing these computer games. What this spreadsheet is looking for is it's looking for the highest score. Okay, so the minute we see highest or lowest, we need to start thinking about we need to start looking about specific functions to use. These are what I like to call key words that are found within the questions. Those keywords, when you are doing your practical papers, it's very important for you guys to either have a highlighter, a pen, or something that you can mark the question with to kind of highlight the key words within the question. So this one over here, the key word over there is highest. Now remember that we are dealing with the large function as well as the small function and the round function. So the highest score over here, that keyword is very important, meaning that we are looking for the highest score, and the function that we need to use there is clearly the large function. A lot of the students know how to complete the work, and if I give them the example, they understand how to do it and they explain it, and once I've explained it, they understand it. However, when they are reading and interpreting the questions, the trouble comes in when you've read the question, but you don't exactly understand what function to use. So highest, the key word over there is highest, and the function that we need to identify that word with is large. So I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to look for the largest value. So I'm going to say large, double click on large. I'm going to highlight all these values over here because these are the values that I need to work with. I say comma, and they said the highest score, not the second highest, not the third highest, not the fourth highest. And if they said the highest, I need to look for the first highest and enter. And the first highest is 794, which is Anthony Willemse. Okay. Okay, second highest score that I'm looking for over here. So I'm going to say equals again. Now, this is a question that you could actually use the large function, and you could also use the small function as well. But because they've used the word highest, I'd recommend using the large function. So if we say equals large, double click on it, and then highlight this one over here. And then those are the cells that we are looking at. Looking for the second highest, so I'm going to include 2 over there, and then enter. For this question over here, I was just thinking about it now. You could actually use also what's called the max function. Max looks for the highest value. Okay. However, because we are doing the large, small, and round function within this activity or this class, yeah, we just use it for example purposes. But you could also say, let's just delete that one over there, equals max. Double click on max and highlight the cells over there, and then it gives you the same value over there. So there are 2 functions that you could use. However, because we're doing the large function, I just kind of automatically did that one. What I could also do, just as an example, just to kind of show you, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values over there. What I could do over here is I could say equals small, and then double click on small, highlight the values over there, and then say comma 9, because it's going to give me the second smallest number, or the 9th smallest number, which is actually the second largest as well. It's kind of the same thing, but anyways, that's just something else that you could do and just to kind of expand your thinking a bit as well. Okay, cool. Let's get back to this one over here. Let's just do second equals large, double click on that, highlight all of those, comma 2, and enter. And then the lowest score, again, the key word over there is lowest, which you should remember as the small function that we are using now. Equals small, double click on small, highlight the cells that I'm looking for, and then comma, I'm looking for the first smallest number, not the second smallest, not the third smallest. I'm looking for the lowest score, which is going to be a 1 over there. and then enter. And then my lowest score is 5804, which is Conrad du Plessis. Okay, so that was just a couple of examples of the small and the large function that we had a look at. What we are going to do now is we are going to look at a slightly tricky one, but it kind of ties in a little bit with the section of work that we did yesterday. We had a look at relative cell referencing and absolute cell referencing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at an athletics meeting that was held. And what we're going to try and find over here is we're going to try and find the best time over here. Now, this is a tricky question because we are looking at athletics. So now, immediately when I think of the word best, I think of, okay, it's going to be number one or something that's going to be the highest. So automatically I think, okay, listen, I need to use the large function. But because it's the best time and the best time in athletics is actually the lowest time, I really actually need to use the small function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say equals small because I'm looking for the lowest number over here. Remember in athletics, obviously the smaller or the lower your time, the better. We'll double click on small. I'm then going to look at these three cells over here, and I'm going to look at the smallest value over here, and it's going to give me 14.62. Now, yesterday we did relative and absolute cell referencing. Now, relative cell referencing allows me to drag and autofill all of these cells over here, and the function automatically remains the same. So instead of doing equals small and kind of inserting a function into each one of these cells, I don't know how many times, 16 times, all I had to do was do one function over here and then drag it down, and it gives me the best time for each one of these athletes. Okay. What I'm going to do now for the second best time as well, again, automatically I assumed, okay, listen, this is going to be the large function. However, because we are looking for the smallest time, the smallest time is the best time in athletics, we are looking at using the small function. So I'm going to do it in a different method over here. I'm just going to use the fx function to show you the different method that we can use. Type in fx over here, and you can see a function that I used recently was small. So I can just actually double click over here. The array that I'm looking for over here is these three values, because these three values, I want the small function to look at these values and sort of analyze these values and determine which is the smallest one. And the k value or the nth value that I'm looking for is the second best time, which is n, so which is 2. And I'll click enter, and it's 14.62. So what I need to do now is apply relative cell referencing, which I did yesterday. And relative cell referencing means that I do not need to lock any specific cell. All of these cells are, or all of these values are in the same row, which means that I can just drag and autofill the options over here, and it gives me the second best time for each one of those students. Okay, so that was relative cell referencing that I applied to the small function over there. Okay, and then this one over here, it asked to calculate the average. So what I'm going to do here is say equals. This is not really part of kind of the functions that we've been looking at today, but I'll just do it anyway. Equals average, and then highlight these cells over here that I'm going to look at, enter, and it gives me the average over there. And then I can highlight, or sorry, drag those down over there. It gives me the average of all of those times. Now what I could do over here is I could just kind of remove the decimal places to that, or I could do the round function, which is a little bit complicated for now, so I'm not going to do it, but I could do that over there and just apply that so that all of the cells now only have 2 decimal places. Okay, so that was a little bit on the round function, the small function, and the large function, which, like I said, will most definitely be tested in grade 11 and grade 12. Continues through, and it's a very useful function to know. And yeah, I hope that the lesson made sense and that you got something out of it. What we're going to do tomorrow, let me just get to it now. What we're going to do tomorrow is we are going to look at counter and count blank, the functions. We are going to look at the counter and the count blank functions and see how we can apply those ones in Excel. Just a reminder that if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to email me or you send me a message and I'll try and answer those questions. There's a section of work that you don't understand that you need assistance with. Also, please just pop me an email. You can send me an email at aflint@newtonhouse.co.za. I will respond to your email in the evenings. If I haven't responded to your email, apologies for that. Or, if you want to look at any of the videos that we have up on the YouTube channel, go to Africa Teen Geeks, and you can also follow us on Twitter as well as Instagram. It's #LockdownSchools Africa Teen Geeks. And yeah, I hope that these lessons have been beneficial to you. And yeah, like I said, message me if you need help with anything, or you'd like if you have an idea for a specific lesson that you don't really understand. Thanks very much, grade 11s. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.